Hi there, welcome to my video. I posted a few videos last summer about starting my garden and the do's and don'ts and updates and everything when I was getting started. I had so many videos that I had filmed and I stopped posting because the storage was full and I went to go delete, and I guess I was deleting things too willy-nilly, and I deleted my videos that I had filmed. And then shortly after that, I went to go on vacation, and that would have been early July, late June, early July. I went on vacation, and when I came back, just the summer sun was so hot, it kind of like fried my garden. So I kind of gave up on the summer garden. I did start a fall garden, didn't go well for me. I definitely need to do more research on ways to just get better at it. I did have some things grow. So anyways, my next do and don't of the garden that I'm going to start off the year with is, I feel so stupid, one of the reasons why my fall garden didn't work out so well. So here in Florida, you have to start your fall stuff inside more or less because it's just too hot to get anything growing outside. They won't germinate. The problem with that is if you start them when it's cool enough for them to germinate, it gets too hot too quickly the next season that they'll start, your stuff will start bolting and everything before you really get to have a good harvest. And I learned that last year. So what I did was in the very late summer, early fall, I had already had these, and I had went to go put them into use, and this was my result. A whole lot of nothing. So I don't know if you can see the debris of the dead sprouts that were in there. So just, I guess, a word to the wise from experience. This is so stupid. I feel so stupid. The reason why it didn't work was because if you see at the bottom of these trays, there's no holes in them. I assumed if it's going to have a watering tray and a tray for your sprouts, that there's going to be holes in the bottom of them, and I didn't look. And so what had happened was I was watering my sprouts. I did sprout. This seed starter mix was wet when I had planted them, so they sprouted, and then they died. So as they were dying, I was like adding more water because I was like, okay, I could see that the soil was drying out, and I was like, maybe I'm just not adding enough water. And the more and more they're dying, the more and more water I'm adding, and I'm like, what's wrong? Well, finally, the tray with all the soil started floating to the top, and I realized that the soil is definitely not getting the water, and that's when I realized that there's no holes in them. So I have to make holes in these, and we're going to, right now it's in January here in Florida, we're going to go ahead and start seedlings inside for tomatoes and probably peppers. It is so hot right now. It's like in the upper 60s. A few days ago, it was snowing here. We had snow, and now it's in the 60s. That's how crazy Florida weather is. That's why it's so hard to grow a garden in Florida. People think if you live in Florida, you just have this amazing garden all the time. Not true. All right, I'm going to go poke holes in these, and then we're going to get started. Okay, so I've cut some slits into these, a couple of slits in each cell. I just use scissors and just cut a slit. It should be good enough to get some water in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I do have an idea for people who either don't have the money to waste on these or just don't want to waste money on these. So let me go get that real quick. All right, so I got in a big flat of blueberries at Sam's Club not too long ago. I get these often from Sam's Club. Anyways, it's already got slits and everything, and all you have to do is put some dirt in there and you've got a seedling tray. And technically it's free because I would have bought the blueberries anyway, and I would have just thrown this away. So I can use this as a seedling tray, easy. I could probably even turn it into a little greenhouse with a lid on it. So if you don't want to waste money on these, if you don't have to, or if you don't want to, just use things that you already got like this. It's free, and it'll work just the same. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dump these into my little bucket over here, and I This is just my dried up starter mix. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just going to reconstitute it. So I'm just going to reconstitute it and dump it into this bucket and add some water and just fill my cells up. All right, so my soil mix has been reconstituted. It's back to being moist. I think I might have added just a little. No, I thought I added too much water. It just wasn't all the way mixed in. Okie doke. So I'm just going to plop it down into these cells. Let's see if I can get it a little bit higher. Eddie, go somewheres. So I'm just gonna just sprinkle it in there, and it don't have to be pretty. I didn't even take out the old decayed crap that never got a chance at life. I'm just leaving it all in there. And now, over summer when I was on vacation in Virginia, M.I. Gardner had a sale, and I had gotten a whole bunch of seeds. And so I don't think I'm going to have to buy seeds for like a couple of years unless there's just something that I see that I don't already have. But I've gotten so many types of tomatoes and everything like that, and a lot of them are heirloom, that I don't foresee myself really ever needing to buy tomato seeds, at least not for a very long time. And one of the places I went to in Virginia, it was an old plantation owned by Thomas Jefferson. It's called Monticello, and they have heirloom seeds there. And some of them, they grow like on the grounds, which I thought was super cool. So I did grab a few packets, not because I actually needed any of them, but I mean, it's like a souvenir and a little slice of history. So I did grab some of those. I'm excited to try those out. Now, at the end of summer, I tried to grow some of the M.I. Gardner seeds and some of the Monticello seeds. I did not have luck. I think it is so hot here in July and August that I think the soil might have been too hot. Like, some of them didn't even germinate, and the ones that did germinate just immediately fried. Even with them being in partial shade, they just fried. Another thing that I had was the army worms. Oh my gosh, those army worms were ridiculous. I cannot even describe to you the freaking nightmare that caused me. Like, the amount of money I've spent on like organic pesticides and stuff like that. I spent so much money, and nothing worked on these things. I could not get rid of them. I like doused these plants, but you have to be careful with them because like you don't want to like put some of the stuff you don't want to put out like during the daytime, because like the bees and the butterflies and stuff will come in contact with it, and we don't want that for some of those products. Some of the products it doesn't bother anything besides a caterpillar or something like that, but so you have to like read what it targets. But we definitely don't want to hurt any of our pollinators or anything like that. So, you know, I couldn't just go spraying all willy-nilly. And then you don't want to spray something liquid on your plants at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun is out and it's 100 degrees outside. Everything will fry. So that was a flipping nightmare. That was actually one of the reasons why when I came back and I saw that my garden was a little bit on the overheated side, I didn't even worry about it. I just let it be a loss, because those army worms, they were so bad that as I was like treating my plants, I would come in and I'd have to wash my hair. I'd have to wash my clothes immediately because they would be all over me. Like they were everywhere. It was like a complete infestation in my garden. It was so bad. But I will have to say I got the best yields, more than I could have ever imagined. My garden was definitely a success. I wish that I still had those videos, because the amount of tomatoes that I got this past year was out of this world. It was so crazy. I had one tomato that was well over a pound. I forgot what it weighed out. I got a kitchen scale so that way I could weigh my tomatoes just to see if I had any like granddaddy tomatoes, and I did. It came from one of my plants that I it was supposed to be a Bella Rosa, but the other plants that I had gotten from this guy were not what they were supposed to be. They were supposed to be sun sugar tomatoes, and they weren't. They were like big, like huge tomatoes. Actually, it might have been one of those plants that it came off. They were those, and the Bella Rosas were in the same garden bed. So I can't remember which plant it came off of. But anyways, yeah, they were a monster. They weren't what they were supposed to be, but it was a happy accident because those were some monster tomatoes. And they were so good. They were like sweet and like acidic and like savory all at the same time. I can't even describe it. It was the best tomatoes I've ever had in my entire life. My celebrities came out good. The celebrity tomatoes are probably my favorite. All of my tomatoes were so good. I had hundreds and hundreds of pounds of tomatoes. All right, let me go get my seeds. I'll be right back. But yeah, like I think I ended up with like give or take 50 tomato plants. Now some of those died out before they got any tomatoes on them, so I didn't have 50 producing tomato plants, but I did have a lot of tomato plants. So I probably gave 100 pounds of tomatoes away, and then I canned a ton of tomatoes. And let me just rearrange everything real quick. My dad came to visit for his annual vacation. He came down here to visit, and he helped me out in the garden for the week that he was here. He ate a ton of tomatoes. I ate my very first tomato sandwich while he was here. He made one for me. And because I'm not someone who just like picks up a tomato and eats it. I wasn't someone who just picks up a tomato and eats it. I'll tell you what though, my daddy made me a tomato sandwich with some Duke's mayonnaise on it. That was the business. I ain't gonna lie. I ate so many tomatoes. The amount of weight I gained this summer, I gained tens of pounds because of the amount of bread I was eating from all the freaking tomato sandwich. I was eating like 3 tomato sandwiches a day with salt and pepper and Duke's mayonnaise, and it was perfect. It was amazing. We had some BLTs, and those were really good, and they were all homemade tomatoes. Now, I was missing my tomato sandwiches after all my tomato plants died, so I did try making tomato sandwiches with store-bought tomatoes. Listen, they weren't the end of the world. They weren't great. They weren't bad. I still ate them. It was fine. They did not compare, though, to what I had in my garden. All right, so I got so many different types of tomatoes in here. Just to name off some, I have a mortgage lifter tomato, a Puron sprayless tomato. I'm probably not saying that right. Grande Rio Verde Tomatillo. I have a yellow stuffer tomato, which I think that's the one that looks like a bell pepper on the inside, like it's hollow. So I'm going to try to do like stuffed peppers with those tomatoes. I've got Mr. Stripey. This one's a dwarf tomato. I'm sure I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Wero Kowai. That's not how you say it. Tomato. Arkansas Traveler. I definitely want to try that. And let me see here. I think I've got more because I had 2 separate orders. I've got black cream tomatoes, a pineapple tomatillo, Dr. Weitch's yellow tomato, German Johnson. This one is a Cherokee purple. I've got Hillbilly and Floridade. Now, I've tried doing the Floridade. I've tried doing the German Johnson, and I tried doing the Cherokee purple in late summer, early fall, and those are the ones that I told you didn't germinate, or if, I think 1 or 2 that did, they just fried immediately. But again, it was like super hot, so I'm not blaming my gardener or Monticello for those. I'm sure that was a user error. So I don't know which one I want to try. I think we're going to try the Floridade because that one is actually made for Florida. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to do 4. I'm going to pick 6 to get started with, and I'm going to do 4 of each. And I'm just going to put 1 seed in each one, and if it doesn't germinate, I'm not going to be sad, because if I get 1 or 2 of the, you know, if I plant 4 of each and I get 2 germinations, great. I've got 2. That's all I really need of each flavor, each each type of tomato. And then I'll just use the empty ones that didn't grow, and I'll just grow something else there instead. And it will be like a rotating, revolving door of tomatoes. I definitely want to try the black creme, so we're going to do that one. I have to go back and label these, so just for my own mental note, I'm going left to right on these. Okie doke. So I did those, and then I canned so many tomatoes. I have a ton left. I've used some that I've, you know, just cooked in throughout the fall. It was weird because my husband was like, cook the tomatoes, and I was like, I can't. I work so hard to grow them and can them. I can't just eat them. I don't know why. It wasn't like it was a waste necessarily, but it was like I worked so hard. I didn't want to, like, have you ever had like a favorite perfume or something like that? You get to the bottom of the bottle and you're like, okay, I've got to save this for like a special occasion kind of thing. That's kind of how like I was at, like, mentally with my tomatoes. You know what? I heard these Dr. Weich's, whatever you say, are pretty good. So I'm going to try some of these too. Anyways, yeah, I had a hard time coming to terms with actually using my canned tomatoes. I gifted a lot of cans of tomatoes. Like, my sister came and visited me the same time that my dad came to visit from Idaho. My sister came down. She drove down to Louisiana for a day and drove back because she's in college, so she couldn't stay here a long time. But I gave her some. I brought some to my mom in Virginia. And I made lots of pickles. Let me tell you what, my pickles were a hit. Anybody who had my pickles, like, everybody said that they were gone within the day. They loved the homemade pickles. All right, let's try a hillbilly tomato, because I'm a little bit of a hillbilly, so we'll try one of these. Oh, apparently I've already tried growing one of these. This must have been one of the ones that I tried to grow in the fall. Now, these aren't the only ones that I'm going to have for the year by any means. These are ones I'm getting started with, and then I'll make more. And what I did last year, and I'll do it again this year, if I have too many of one thing, I'm just going to give the plant away. Instead of planting everything that sprouts, if I only want 2 or 3 of each one, then I'll give whatever extra away. I always have people that I can give things to. So... But I did have, my husband was like, you need to, like, chill out on the tomato planting this year, because I had so many. I had to plant them in between my my rose bushes and my flower garden, because I didn't have any more space to plant them. So I want to try this mortgage lifter. How many did I already plant? I wasn't paying attention to where I just planted the last ones at. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, I ran out of garden space, and if you happen to see this and it's still January, this actually is probably a good time. I have so many garden beds I don't need anymore, so I didn't look this year, but in the winter of last year is whenever I got my garden beds, and I got really good deals on them, and saved a lot of money buying them when it was off season. And so I suggest that if you're getting started and you don't have any beds but you want them, now is the time to go and look on Amazon or wherever, because they're starting to bring the garden stuff back in, like, the retail stores. Like, I was in Sam's Club yesterday, and they were getting out raised garden beds and charging like $99 for them. And that's ridiculous. Don't pay $99 for that crap. You know, if it was like one of those birdie beds or whatever they're called, like, that would be a different story. But anything at Sam's Club, I don't think is gonna live up to that kind of hype that those really good garden beds, who, you know, those companies, that's their thing. Gardening is their thing. Sam's Club gardening is not their thing. So if you want to waste your money on it, I mean, I'm not going to say don't do what you want, but I'm just saying, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, I would say December, January is probably the time to do it, because now they're going to start bringing up all of the gardening stuff, and it's going to come back to regular prices now. So what else do I want to do? I want to do these dwarf tomatoes. No, I'm going to do the Arkansas. I'm going to do the Mr. Stripey. The Arkansas Traveler can hold up to the Florida heat, I've heard. So I'll plant those later on my next round, and they'll be around when it's like hotter in the year. So we're just going to go with the flow and see what happens. So, yeah, I had a whole bunch of cucumbers. Also, tell you something that I'm not planting this year is beans. I'm going to do my asparagus beans, my yard-long beans, because I got, you know, you get a pretty good amount. Them things are just troopers, but they're troopers. I don't know how else to describe those yard-long beans. But as far as like the dried beans and stuff like that, I mean, I got a lot of pods for my black beans, but even with a lot of pods, you know, they only have like a few beans in each one. And I just never had enough to make like a full pot of like black beans and rice, for instance. Like, the amount of space it took in my garden didn't make sense for the yield that I got. I couldn't feed my family, you know, on 10 feet of black beans. And 10 feet is probably not very much for black beans, because my dad was telling me that when he was a kid and they planted dry beans, that they did hundreds of feet with several rows of it to get, you know, enough beans to can for the year. I don't have that kind of space. So it makes more sense for me to buy a $5 4-pound bag of beans at the store than it does for me to try to grow them. So I'm not doing that. That's one of those things that you just have to like learn from experience and see what works for you and what works in your space. That did not work in my space, and I'm not going to waste my time or energy trying to do it again. What else did we have? We had corn. We got lots of corn. I don't know what happened. They were like little miniature sized corns. They're not supposed to be miniature sized corns, but that's what we got. And they dried out really quickly too. So I don't know if I didn't pick them at the right time. You know, I did some research. I followed advice of my parents, who both have grown corn successfully. And maybe I just didn't do something right. I don't know. All right, so I have finished my tomato planting, my seed planting. So this is already watered. I don't have to water it in. I am going to put it in this. You put the water in here, and then you put this in there like that, and it becomes a bottom water, and that way you don't have to introduce like bacteria and diseases by top watering to your plant's vegetation. And then if you want to turn it into a greenhouse like this, you can. Now what I did was I went and bought at this store called Aldi that we have here. They had a black plastic utility shelf for $19.99. So the bottom two shelves, it was a four-tier shelf. So the bottom two shelves, I have my canning goods on them. I got 2 of them. I put my canning goods on them. And then the top 2 shelves, on one of them, I'm going to make it my seed starting zone. So I have my little seed growing lights and everything already on there. And I'm not doing like a big to-do with the seed starting thing inside. Last year I didn't have a whole lot of luck with it. I'm going to try it again this year. I have a better setup this year, but I wouldn't, if I had not gotten those for $20 on like good deal on Aldi, those shelves, I would not have wasted my money to go get shelving units to have this whole seed starting setup. If I had a huge homestead where I had like an acre of garden or something like that, it would make sense for me to have a bigger startup with multiple shelves and multiple grow lights and stuff like that. If I had a business and I was planning on selling these things, it would make sense for me to have a full setup. But since I'm just doing an at-home garden and I only have a limited amount of space, my 2 shelves and my 2 little grow lights, they should work fine. And the way that the shelves are made, now I can get my lights nice and down and right on. You know, before I had my lights up here, now I can have them right on here. So when they start sprouting, they can get nice and strong with the light, and they're not stretching, reaching for the light. So I am excited to give this a try, and I think it is going to be a better setup than what I had last year, trying to use books and just things that I had in my little corner of space that I had to try to hang lights from and stuff like that. It didn't really work out. I had too much space in between where the light came down and where my seeds were. So now I can have the light a lot closer. I think it's going to do a lot better. We'll see. Only time will tell. So that was just my quick update. I just wanted to get back on the gardening wagon because I didn't really do very much over the fall. I did try to direct plant some seeds after this failed. Those didn't germinate for the most part. I can show you what germinated. I'll tell you what, though, some of these fall plants, troopers, I don't know what to say other than troopers, because it snowed and my lettuce is still growing. I have cabbage growing. I don't know anything about cabbage. It's, I guess, bolting. It's flowering. We have had a very cold winter. This is one of the first warm days that we've had, and it's in the 60s. But it started bolting when it was like in the 20s and 30s. The plant isn't dead. It's very healthy looking. I'm thinking that maybe it got so cold that the cabbage plant was like, oh my God, I'm dying, and let me sprout and make some seeds before I kick the bucket. I'm assuming that's what happened. I don't know. I have to do some more research, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this one, I think, was supposed to be pak choi. What happened was I planted these in rows, and then they didn't stay in the rows when I watered them. The seeds must have floated around. I'm assuming this is a pak choi because this is the side that I had the pak choi on, but do you see the flowers? It almost looks like broccoli. So I don't know if this is any good. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with this. I think pak choi, you eat the leaves. This one was on the Copenhagen cabbage side, and it's flowering a lot. So I don't think, this doesn't look like it's going to give me a head of anything. And then this one is very small. This is my hand, and this is the whole cabbage. The cabbage is about the size of my hand. This one's like really pretty though. It might be flowering, but it's beautiful. And then my kids must have gotten a hold of my seeds. This is a salad seed. It survived the snow. A salad plant. This is a Marvel's a 4 season, I think is what it's called. It's a salad. I keep on saying salad. It's a lettuce plant, and it survived the snow as well. And these survived multiple freezes. They did not survive the snow and the very cold weather preceding the snow. And this is supposed to be caraway. I've never grown it before. It looks kind of like, it reminds me of carrots, but it's a lot bigger and taller. So I don't really know how to harvest this. I'm going to have to do some research on that. But I'm glad that it grew. I hope it's the right thing. It's not a weed. But anyways, I've never grown it. This is just an experiment. So something grew. I'm hoping it's actually caraway. I have to go and look and see what caraway actually looks like and what you're supposed to do with it when you're done. But that's nice and healthy. So if it is an herb that I can use, I'll be very excited. I planted lots of herbs in here. Most of them didn't germinate. My strawberries survived the snow. You go strawberries. I have for you today. I just wanted to show you that, you know, even if you have a lot of success, sometimes you can have a lot of unsuccessful events like my fall garden or my failure at starting my seeds. And you just don't let it get you down. So always put on your boots, dust yourself off, and try again. My mom always said, you know, if you're a real cowgirl, when you fall out of the saddle, you'll get back in it. So I'm kind of applying that to my gardening thing. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this year holds. Hopefully it'll be another really good harvest. if the only thing that comes out of it is tomatoes, I'll be fine, because that was my favorite thing that I grew this year anyway. So I was really excited about that. I'm really proud of myself. I ain't gonna lie. Let me just pat myself on the back real quick, because for all the failures that I had, let me tell you what, my success on my tomatoes just blew everything else out of the water. That was really my takeaway from really the last 365 days. If I could say anything, I am not disappointed. Out of all my failures, I'm still not disappointed, because my tomatoes were so good. Just even if you focus on one vegetable and you like can't take care of all the vegetables, that's okay. Just focus on your one thing. That was where I put all my research and everything into this year, and I did really well. My peppers also, I had a banging season for freaking jalapeno peppers. So many jalapeno peppers. The amount of freaking jalapeno popper dip I have made this last year, it's like my husband's favorite thing in the world. He don't want it with like regular jalapenos from the store. They have to be the jalapenos that I grow, because my jalapenos blow the stores out of the water. And I had something called a jalapeno that I had gotten. I didn't grow those from seeds. I actually got those from Lowe's. But well worth the money. I'm not a big jalapeno person, because I don't really like super hot stuff, which the jalapenos that I grew, they had some kick to them, but they weren't like insanely spicy. The jalapenos, it's like so weird, because like if you take a bite of it, they taste just like a jalapeno, exactly the same. Like you're waiting for the heat to kick in, and it just never does. It's like the weirdest experience. I can't explain it. You just have to like try it for yourself. But I also grew a lot of sweet Cubanelle peppers. We're going to use that term sweet very loosely, because I'll tell you what, those things came from like the armpits of Satan or something like that. I don't know, because like they were the peppers from hell. They were so hot. I cannot even tell you, like they were so hot. Like they set my soul on fire. They were so hot. I don't know if like they cross-pollinated with like the jalapenos, and that's what made the fruit hot, if I got the wrong seeds in the packet. But like one little tiny bite, like my eyes were red and watery and swollen and puffy. I looked like I had cried for like 2 weeks straight, just eating one little nibble off of one of these freaking peppers. They were so awful. I will never grow those again. I'm going to throw that pack of seeds away, because nobody should be eating something that hot. It is not safe. But anywho, yeah, so all right, that's it. I'm gonna actually go now. All right, bye.